what do they say, that, you know, doing the same thing twice and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. Well, if whatever you were doing prior to embarking upon the journey of self-cultivation was leading you to be not your ideal happy self and content, peaceful self, then to proceed upon that path thinking that it's going to get better really is a little bit insane. So the results may not be there. Like, there may not be a sense of instantaneous enlightenment just after a month or two of meditation or a couple of months of meditation. But what happens, what I've noticed, is when you suspend the short-term vision and start measuring your increments in a larger time frame, the distance covered is actually quite significant. And the direction that it's moving is super, super, super important. So for many of you that have been here, you're aware that we have meditation cushions, and a lovely couple in out near Dalesford somewhere make these meditation cushions. And 2 years ago, or thereabouts, maybe 2 years ago, we came up with the idea that we wanted to make our own meditation cushions. And I think a year ago, we bought an industrial sewing machine. And 3 weeks ago, we bought 200 kilos of buckwheat husks. And a couple of days ago, we bought some material. So today I hit that very frequent place in my day where I knew that I'd had a gutful of looking at a computer screen, except for this moment here. I'm happy to be looking at other humans at the other side of it. So early afternoon, I just realized that I can't look at the screen anymore. And in years gone by, that would have been, shut up brain, I'm going to have a coffee and I will push through till 8 or 9 o'clock at night and torture myself behind the screen. But today I have a little bit more self-insight. So I didn't do that. And I took myself to the industrial sewing machine and I made some cushions. So we are going to be releasing our Kailash meditation cushions after like 2 years. So it really did feel quite, it was good. You know, I'm not going to lie, we were heavily influenced by the design from Angela and Southern, their cushions. We really like the shape. And for many of you know, the buckwheat filling is really quite nice, certainly better than sitting on the couch. And so I was heavily influenced to the point I took one of theirs apart and saw how it was made and thought, oh yeah, this is great. I've got this. I'm just going to be able to make out, you know, cushions like that. It'll be no problems whatsoever. And, you know, I then promptly realized that I had no clue how to even thread the bobbin on this industrial sewing machine that I'd bought. I didn't even know how to thread the main thread. I had no clue what I was doing. And for many of us, this journey towards inner peace, especially upon the path of yoga, can start out with that great aspiration of like, I want to make the cushion. And then someone's like, here's a sewing machine, here's some practices, go forth and cultivate your inner peace. And you go, sweet, I got this. And, you know, it looks easy in the store because the guy's a sewing machine salesman and a pro and just like rips out some stuff. And you're like, wow, I could do that. And you look on YouTube and there's a bunch of people sewing stuff and you're like, wow, I could do that. And then you jump behind the machine and nearly put a freaking giant nail through your finger and the thing gets folded in half and you sew it all into one big kind of mess. You don't even know how to use the pins and all the little intricate doodads that go along with that. And so the first emotions one experiences on the path when you are embarking upon this journey towards your dream destination, making cushions or living a life of inner peace, can be that sense of enthusiasm and yeah, I'm going to do this thing, and then promptly like, holy shit, this is actually quite difficult. I don't know what I don't know. I think they call this the Dunning-Kruger effect, or there's some scientists that researched around how people with a little bit of knowledge often misrepresent or misappraise their own sense of knowledge on a given topic. So you get a little bit of knowledge and you think that you know everything about the thing, and then very quickly after that, there's a steep drop off where you realize, oh, whoa, I don't know. I don't know anything actually. And so in the past, that realization of not knowing so much maybe would have crushed my ego. It did crush my ego and I hated it. So what I would do as an instinctive response would be to work extremely hard to try and become good at the thing that I was trying to do. What I witnessed happen this afternoon that was noteworthy for me and my own process was that I just worked iteratively. I knew that, I mean, I made one cushion and I made a lot of mistakes. It was like, whoa, I don't even know what I'm doing. And in that first cushion, I learned to thread a bobbin, run the auto bobbin thingo, like do the proper thread. I learned a heap of things. I've used industrial machines before, but not this one. And so the cushion itself was rough. Like it's rough as guts. No one's buying that cushion. Like I'm not going to sell it. I gave it to the wife. Rajni, you've got the cushion. Number one. It's got the serial number 1 from our Kailash cushions. But I learned something. I learned something from, you know, my impatience and my haste to just get a finished product up. I knew that I was just trying out a bunch of ideas, and the finished product looks like a bit of an experiment in some places, certainly not presentable. But carrying forward that knowledge that I gained on that first attempt, I had a second go. And this time I decided to try something else. And I you know, there was labels and handles and bits and things, and I took it forward and I thought, wow, I've got this. This one's going to be much better. And then I got to the part where I'm stuffing the buckwheat hulls in and I'm like, yeah, it's good. And then I sew it all up and I'm like, the thing is like kind of like, it's like a pancake. You can't even really sit on it. It looks great, but like, you know, so I learned something about the buckwheat hulls on that one. I iterated again and again and again. And instead of trying to get it perfect on any one of them, I just substituted bulk repetitions. And by the end of the day, I got something that I was really, really proud of. And it's the root chakra one. So it's red and we've got some indigenous print on it from a local, well, I don't know how local, an Australian indigenous artist. And you can see we've even got our little Kailash tag. And there I am thinking like, this is the neatest one that I've done. I actually worked out how to do a proper template, and instead of sewing, I sewed on the line instead of cutting on the line, which is what I was doing prior. And I'm like, because I'm turning it inside out, I can just sew on the line and it's really neat. It's really neat. And I thought like, I've nailed it. This thing's awesome. We're good to go. Let's scale up and go on to production mode. And then I started seeing some of these guys fall out. The buckwheat husks are just slinking out the back, right near the handle. So, you know, I learned a lot, and I also learned how much, you know, one afternoon is not the whole war. What on earth does iteration have to do with meditation and yoga? Well, in case you haven't guessed, this shit is iterative. You show up and do the, I'm a holy soul, I'm a pure soul. You might do Sanskrit mantra, you might do the warm-ups over and over and over again. And the difference between two cushions might not really seem like much. You're just like, oh, man, like yesterday was rough. I don't think I'm getting anywhere. I don't know what's going on with this thing. The machine has been sitting there for 2 years, gathering dust, beginning to look at what's going on inside after maybe a lifetime of busyness and frenetic moving around everywhere. And you've just given yourself that 30 minutes to sit there every day, or 10 minutes, or whatever you're doing. And you feel like, my God, like I'm not getting anywhere. Well, remember that, 2 years ain't a long time to have a year to have the sewing machine gathering dust, and 2 years of hot air, us blowing it around, talking about doing the cushions. If you've been suffering or been caught by the imbalances that are inside of your mind, then this initial push into daily practice, into viewing oneself as a soul, is going to come with an accompanying sense of we tend to be very focused upon the immediacy of the present, and maybe yesterday and today and tomorrow. We're not really looking at that longer term vision of, well, this might be the moment where the journey, I've walked as far away from myself as I needed to, and I've turned around and I've started walking back towards where I am, but my God, I'm so far away still. And it's like, yeah, you're a long way away because you walked away a fair way from yourself. At least now your effort is in the right direction. At least our effort is towards a cushion that is able to be used without leaving buckwheat husks everywhere. At least your steps and the gesture that you're making is towards peace instead of insanity, or what do they say, that doing the same thing twice and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. Well, if whatever you were doing prior to embarking upon the journey of self-cultivation was leading you to be not your ideal happy self and content, peaceful self, then to proceed upon that path thinking that it's going to get better really is a little bit insane. So the results may not be there. Like, there may not be a sense of instantaneous enlightenment just after a month or two of meditation or a couple of months of meditation. But what happens, what I've noticed, is when you suspend the short-term vision and start measuring your increments in a larger time frame, the distance covered is actually quite significant. And the direction that it's moving is super, super, super important. So, at the moment, we're on the trajectory to have a good cushion by the next retreat. Like, I'm determined to iterate, to just go at it again and again and again. Just the way that I wake up in the morning, and even if it's been a rough couple of days of meditation, we were in Melbourne over the weekend, back at it. And back at it, and back at it. So iteration is an idea that first came to me when I was working and studying as an architect. And the design process, many creative professionals or people in the creative arts would have a feeling, at least intuitively, if not quite clearly articulated, around the nature of iteration. You just keep doing more, because each time you're doing a little bit more, something feeds back in from what you've already done, and then the next thing gets a little bit better. It's informed by maybe 10 horrible attempts, and then the 11th one might not be so bad, and the 20th one might be good. This is the nature of these practices. It's cultivation, it's growth. It is not instantaneous. Yes, I have attained that. Yes, this practice works like a switch. Turns this off, turns that on. That's not what I've experienced. Iteration is it's the dance that we play with each other as well. We try things on human to human, person to person, and we fine-tune the way that we communicate in order to be understood. Something else that's kind of floating in the ether, which is quite interesting, that I'd suggest people spend a little bit of time pondering the implications of, or just exploring the capabilities for your own maybe understanding of where our collective humanity is headed, is the very, well, I mean, AI. I don't know how else to frame it. There's a significant leap occurring at the moment into areas of computational intelligence. What I've thought for many years was that I don't really buy into artificial intelligence. From what I've experienced, there is intelligence inherent inside of this universe. It's intelligible. One can make sense of it. Maybe not everything. Maybe not all of us are blessed with that overall omniscience or omnipresence to be able to perceive everything. But we can kind of make sense of each other, and the fact that we communicate, the fact that we're interacting on devices that are the product of shared understanding and shared communication for thousands of years, at the end of 4 billion years of continuous life on planet Earth, indicates to me that there's something intelligent in this creation. And so this idea that artificial intelligence is artificial, well, it's you plant a seed, the seed is an apple seed, and it grows an apple tree, and then it fruits apples. You don't say that the apple is an artificial apple because it's not the apple that gave rise, like it's not the same apple that gave rise to the tree. It's like, no, it's an apple. That's the nature of the tree, is a cyclical existence of fruiting, flowering, puts forward, flowering, fruiting, and growth. Well, if we're at a stage now where intelligence is emerging within our collective conscious experience in a manner that we really haven't had direct access to in a computational sense, then where is the notion that it's artificial? Where does that come from? Is that because some people view themselves to be, man is separate from nature, woman is separate from nature? Like, if I view myself as a product and a consequence of nature, why are my creations artificial? and so I don't, I'd be curious to hear what people's intuitive speculations or musings are on this topic, because it doesn't seem that there's much commentary from, there's a lot of people that are, wow, look at AI, it's going to put us all out of a job, or look at how useful it is, it can do this, it can do this, it can do this. I haven't heard so many people speculating upon the broader yogic implication of what it is to exist inside of an intelligent universe, the fact that fruits intelligence. And so whether or not there is consciousness inside of that AI independently, it exists inside of us, and we are conscious. And so there's a huge amount of power that it's brought available to us. If you want a 3-page legal document about X, Y, and Z, go and type it into ChatGPT, and the thing will spit it back out at you. Something that maybe once you would have had to go and spend a couple of $1,000s doing, the thing can do a reasonable job pretty quickly, like instantly, practically instantly, like it writes it in front of you. You go, like, how the hell is it able to spit this stuff out? Well, there's an intelligence there. Now, how does that intelligence like to be engaged with. And for anyone who has played around with some of these tools that are emerging, iteration holds the key. You ask it one thing, and it, like I asked, my dad works for a sporting shooters association, and I was trying to show off the kind of craziness of AI to my dad. I'm like, well, let's get it to write a letter for you. And it, for whatever reason, assumed the position of a community objector instead of somebody who works inside of a gun organization. And so we then asked, it spat out this big long email, and we're like, oh, wow, that's pretty articulate, but it's from the wrong vantage point. Oh, well, there's some good stuff in there. And so we just asked this intelligent system, can you please rewrite this, but from the perspective of the manager of a firearms organization? And then it just did that, right? So iteration is going to be an integral, well, if it isn't already, it's going to be an integral part of all of our lives very, very quickly. It's seldom that we're able to know what we want individually by sitting down and closing our eyes and it magically coming to us. Most people engage in conversation, communion, and connection, and iteration teases out new areas of growth and exploration. Our soul retreat, which for some of you, you must think that it's potentially, I don't know what people think, but we run that nearly every month, and again, it's an iterative process where each iteration is fed back in from the experiences that we feed back in the experiences from the last retreat to enhance the experience, but also to create a broader set of ideas to draw upon in order to best serve that next group who are coming in. So there are kind of things, there are echoes and memories of the previous retreat, but the specifics of the previous retreat get a little bit lost, and we find our flow growing, expanding. Now, your sadhana is exactly the same as this kind of strange relationship with AI that you can do with a computer now, and you can play around with your AI, and it's like, oh, well, it does this stuff, and then sometimes it's way off, and then I need to kind of fine tune how I relate to it. Well, that's what we're cultivating with or have been for thousands of years. We've been cultivating with the body and the mind in a yoga practice. There is a dialogue. There is a sense of guidance of the mind into the structure. There is a sense of allowing the energies of the body to come unobstructed out into the world, simultaneously centering. So this yogic dance of stilling oneself eventually to the point is not arrived at by mechanical imposition, a forcing. I'm just going to not move and then I'm going to be enlightened. It doesn't work like that. The way that we put out all of the perfect ingredients for a great cushion, and I jumped behind the machine, and the first one was a clunker. I love it to bits, and it's going to be like a Hall of Fame item one day, but it's not a great cushion. 20 cushions in, 20 retreats in, 5 years in for us with what we're doing, and we are iterating continually. Daily, the rhythm of meditation is that iteration of your own soulful connection. And when you are operating on the edges of your cognitive and philosophical and spiritual boundaries, when you're moving into terrain that is difficult and perhaps should not even dare be spoken of, we're talking about states beyond the rational intellect. When dare to at least go into those places, remind yourself that you're moving in the right direction and that at least you're not heading back into direct suffering, maybe, like, or maybe you are, I don't know. Like, I certainly feel like I was pushing, I'll take Joseph Campbell's analogy that I once picked up from him. It's as if you spent your whole life climbing a ladder to get to the top of the building to realize that the ladder was leaned against the wrong building. And you get to the top and you're like, wait, what? This isn't the building I wanted to climb. And so that journey of coming back to soul, it's a process, and we deeply appreciate your efforts. If no one else has ever commended you for your courage to take time for yourself, then truly, as an ashram and on behalf of Rajni, we are deeply grateful for every single soul on planet Earth and maybe beyond, who knows, that does take that gesture towards interconnectedness, towards unitary consciousness. They say that, if there are all these people moving in the very distracted direction, they will meet each other on their way to wherever they're going. And those who are genuinely motivated towards a sense of inner peace meet each other on that journey home. So, it's a beautiful way to depart into meditation. So I've just had some strange dialogue pop up. That's Rajni's there to stand by if this thing doesn't work. There we go. Okay. Not only will you attract those other humans, those other beautiful souls to support you on that journey of return back to whatever you believe is beyond. What occurs is a gathering together of your energies, which maybe once were disparate and spreading out. They begin to focus, and this is where the real building or yoking of one's power happens. Suddenly your whole being goes into something instead of peripheral distractions and things that will lead you astray. So we pray that you hear that voice of guidance from your soul and take your next few steps this week towards wherever you're going. Again, thank you for your time. We will jump into the meditation and then have our nice, quiet goodbye. If you'd like to take a comfortable seat, I'm not going to sit on this cushion because there'll be buckwheat anywhere, but we do have a universe one coming as well. And taking the right hand, placing it on the top of the head, and gently pressing in 3 clockwise circles. And taking the right hand back to the knee. I am a holy soul. I am a pure soul. I am a holy soul. I am a pure soul. I am a holy soul. I am a pure soul.